Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Writing Tip of the Week. My name is Julie Stigmeyer, and I work for the GSCP in writing support. Today, I want to talk about some of the differences between the 6th and 7th editions of the APA manual, as the new one has been released this past fall, and I know a lot of you are adjusting to the updates. So I thought I would just review some of those basics with formatting. So here are the basic manuscript elements for APA. In the 6th edition, all elements can be used for student papers. Generally, professors don't require all of them, like, for example, an abstract page. However, the nice thing about the 7th edition is that it does limit what student papers are required to have. So in student papers, you have a title page or cover page, your text, the body of your paper, whatever it is, and your reference page. Sometimes you will have figures or appendices, especially for those of you in the MSBP program, but a lot of times you don't need these other elements. So that's what I want to focus on today, are these three parts. So this is what a title page looks like in the 6th edition. We start out with the running head and the words running head, as well as the title in all caps. Usually it's a shortened or abbreviated title. You also have a page number, then your title, your full title of the paper, your name, and the institution. So those are generally the requirements for the 6th edition. For the 7th edition, you can see it looks a little bit different. First of all, there's no running head in the 7th edition. You still have a page number, but you don't have to put that title on the top left. Then you'll have your title in bold, your name, and then there are some other elements added to student papers, including, of course, the institution, like the 6th edition, but you'll also have your class name, professor, and date, which is kind of nice in case you ever want to go back and look at that and remember when you wrote the paper or what class it was for. And also notice that unlike the 6th edition, there is a blank line between the title and your name. Then for the 7th edition, there is more flexibility in terms of fonts. I know a lot of you are used to using 12-point Times New Roman, but there are actually some different options in the 7th edition. You can use a sans serif font, which would be one of these three, and I tried to show how they look different. And then you could still use 12-point Times New Roman, but it also gives you the option of another serif font called Georgia. So that's kind of nice, because for Microsoft Word, the default font is this first one, 11-point Calibri. So it might be something you'd like to try. For the beginning of the text, I want to start with the 7th edition, because I want to go through a few different things and then I'll compare with the 6th. Notice again, there's no running head, but you do have your page number in the top right. You again have your title, and in this case it's bold. You can see here I've used the Calibri font. And then I wanted to show you a few different in-text citations. Here is one with one author, and in this case it's a little unusual because it's an organization, but you list the name and the comma and the year. So this is actually just the same as the 6th edition. Here's an in-text citation with two authors, so that is also the same. And then when we get to synthesizing from two different sources, that also remains the same, where you'll have an author name, a comma, and a date. Then this little mark is called a semicolon. That's to show that you have another reference coming, and that would be this other one here. Also, there's a slight difference when you have 3 or more authors. In the 6th edition, you have to list up to 5 authors in your in-text citation. And then after that first reference that you include, you can write et al. However, with 3 or more authors in the 7th edition, from the very first citation, you can just write et al. So notice it's author, no comma, et al, that means and the others, a period for the abbreviation, a comma, and the year. I also wanted to demonstrate how you include an author's name in the sentence. So Edmund Jacobson is the source, the researcher, and then you put the year right after the name. And then you can see there is the citation at the end. Also, I wanted to talk just a little about a secondary source. I get this question pretty often. What happens often is people find a quote that's listed in one source, but it's actually the quote is from another source. So that's what we call the difference between primary and secondary research, or primary secondary sources. So you can see here, it's usually when there's an older source. I mean, it makes sense, like Jacobson from 1929, but it was cited in Peterson 2011. Okay, so this is how you will cite it. This is the primary source, the first source, the original, and then it's quoted in a later source. So this is how you would show it. And then in your reference page, all you show is not the original source because you didn't actually read that, but you would list this, Peterson et al, as your source in your reference page. Now, I use the same text to show you the difference with the 6th edition. So you can see here's the running head now on the pages 2 and following is only the title in all caps, no words running head. You still have your page number, and your title you'll see looks different. It's not in bold, it's regular title case in regular font. Then you can see here that, as I mentioned, in the first reference to a source that has 3 or more authors, you will use it like this. You will list the authors like this. And then after that, you can list it like this, Sherwitz et al. And then, but for the first one in 6th edition, you have to list them all up to 5. And then you can see everything else is similar. So 2 authors, we have 2 different sources here, 2 authors. Okay, and then the headings have remained mostly the same for APA, but the levels 3 and 4 are different. But I didn't really want to focus on that because for students, what I've seen is mainly you use 2 levels of headings. What this means is that, say you've broken your paper down into 3 main sections. Well, you have maybe your intro, and then you begin your first section. And what you'll do is you'll bold and center that in title case. And then the second level of heading is to the flush to the left margin and bold in title case. And it's pretty much the same with 6th edition. Bold title case, bold title case. Okay, I didn't demo the 3rd and 4th levels because you don't very often have to use those at the master's level. Then here's the reference page for the 7th edition, and you'll notice it's very similar except for the font, like I mentioned earlier, and references is bolded. So now what APA has done is made it consistent. So your title's bolded, your headings are bolded, and the reference page notation here is bolded. And this is an example of a book reference, and you can see it's pretty easy actually to list books. You have the author's last name, first initial, year, the title in not title case. This is in where you just capitalize the first letter of the title, the first letter of a subtitle, and any proper nouns. So you can see here the only word there to capitalize is imagery. And then another difference here is that in the past, you had to list the city and state of the publisher. Now all you have to list is the publisher. And then for an article reference, it's actually pretty similar. There's one slight change, which is there's consistency with showing the URL and the DOI. So you can see here is the HTTPS and all that information to show DOI. And it is consistent with what a URL would look like. And otherwise, it's all pretty much the same except for the font, you know, in terms of italicizing the journal article and the volume, etc. And then I've discovered this is a nice way to show class content when you put that in brackets. So anytime it's something that's not a journal or a book or kind of a more regular reference, you can put it in brackets. You can do this also for dissertations, referring to unpublished or published doctoral dissertations, usually unpublished. And in this case, it's a PowerPoint presentation, and I see a lot of students referring to their professor's work in their essays. And you can see here's a little difference with the 6th edition where you do not bold references. And you need the city and state for the publisher, as I noted. And then see the difference here between the URL and the DOI. For the 6th edition, it was a little simpler actually to just put the DOI, or even I've seen where you just put the DOI number. But now it's, and in the past you had to do retrieved from for a URL. So now it's a little bit more consistent. If you're using the 6th edition still, you can create a document from a template by choosing new from template instead of a blank document, and then typing in APA. Looking at this style report, it pulls up a document just like this, and then everything's formatted for you. It's nice, except you do have to take out sections you don't need, like the abstract page or the author note, which is typical for master's level. And you should always check to make sure everything is correct. I thought I'd show you an example of how to use EBSCOhost, which is a database with the Pepperdine databases, and how I took that article and made it a citation in the 2 different versions of the APA manual. So I typed in this article name because I wanted that particular article, and I clicked the PDF full text to get the PDF. It looks like this, but one little secret I learned from a librarian once is that you can click this little golden paper to get the citation information. And what comes up are a lot of different options, and you can see what you want to choose, of course, is APA. And I copied and pasted this, and this looks good. However, when I pasted it, it looked like this. So you can see there's no italics for the journal or the volume. So this is what it would look like in 7th edition. Make sure you italicize the journal title and the volume number. And then it looks very similar. Italicize the title and the volume number. But you can see one other slight difference is the DOI. Here you don't have to list the HTTPS, whereas here you do in the 7th edition. Okay, so I know that was a little bit longer writing tip, but I wanted to share those details with you so you could kind of start to see the differences between them. If you ever need writing support, please feel free to reach out at this bit.ly address. And here is a way to access some of the APA resources. Until next time, happy writing.